And we finally allowed Medicare to negotiate the price of medications with big pharma companies to the benefit of 65 million Americans at least. And as many of you know, we've worked together over the course of my career. I've seen the stakes of this fight firsthand. When I was Attorney General of California, I met with countless families who are often quietly...
And here's what President Biden is saying about this. Since Americans received multiple stimulus checks and funds during the crisis, homeowners are wondering if Congress will actually help more homeowners furthermore. The 30-year mortgage rate has actually reached a new high last week. It led to a greater stagnation in the housing market. The average rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage increased to 7% for the week, ending October 27. It is actually the first time it reached this threshold since April 2002. As inflation endures, consumers are seeing higher costs of return, causing further dramatic declines in consumer confidence this month. In fact, everybody, many potential home buyers are choosing to wait and see where the housing market will end up, pushing demand and home prices further downward. But experts say that there is a current $1 billion in relief funds that Americans can claim right now. That is through President Biden's Rescue Act, and it's provided up to close to $1 billion, $10 billion to the states through the Homeowner Assistance Fund. Most states have implemented this system, and actually, most states have implemented programs to distribute the funds, and are generally an eligible recipient must make less than 100% of the median income for the entire country. In the state of Illinois, eligible homeowners will soon be able to receive up to $30,000 in relief through an assistance program administered by the Illinois Housing Department Development Authority. In a press release, the organization announced that its Illinois Homeowner Assistance Fund would resume at the beginning of the month. They've approved more than $20.5 million in checks for around 1,800 people through the fund, though the fund has been approved earlier this year. The program is funded through the American Rescue Plan, and the state was allocated around $400 million. Applicants have to be able to prove a financial hardship as a result of the crisis, and they also must own a home in the state as their primary residence and be at least 30 days late on their monthly payments and have a household income of less than 150% of the area median income. The Biden administration is also seizing on huge earnings and calls from oil companies as it seeks to give voters a response to relatively high gas prices ahead of next week's midterms. Joe Biden has repeatedly sought to place blame on the industry for the high prices. It has ramped up its rhetoric in the wake of massive earnings. However, some analysts say that the large parts of the price are set by the global oil market, not by individual companies. Joe Biden said on Twitter, if these companies were taking advantage of profits and average profits on refining, instead of the profits they're making today, gas price will come down around 50%. And last week, ExxonMobil reported a record $20 billion in quarterly earnings, while Chevron and Shell posted some big numbers too. $11 billion and $9 billion. Since that conflict and other factors drove up oil and gas prices, it has caused a profit bonanza. The Biden administration has called on them to use that income to reinvest in new oil and gas production. In his speech on Monday, Biden threatened a higher tax on their excess profits for these gas companies. Now, he said that higher tax on excess profits and unspecified other restrictions if the companies do not increase production. While the windfall tax wouldn't win enough support to pass the 50-50 Senate, Biden's comments represent a significant messaging effort to draw attention to high profits. Biden has also blamed the oil industry and called on companies to drill even more. So now we're waiting on President Biden to send out more stimulus payments. But can he get it done this year? Tell me in the comments down below, everybody.
Today to add $250 billion to the Paycheck Protection Program, loans for small businesses to pay workers late.
I mean jobs between $120,000 and $135,000 a year, and you don't need a college degree to do them. Look, y'all made this possible, and we're just getting started. We're just getting started. We saw extraordinary results in these midterms elections that no one thought possible. More independents voted for Democrats and Republicans in this election. Young people, you voted at historic numbers again, just as you did 2 years ago. Young people voted to continue addressing the climate crisis, gun violence, personal rights and freedoms, student debt relief, all those things, which you stepped up to do. As I said,
half of it was made available to parents in advance via monthly payments throughout the second half of 2021. In that time, there were significant decreases in child poverty and food scarcity. Government data showed upticks in spending on necessities like clothing, utilities, and much more. Republicans in Congress and Joe Manchin have let it expire, everybody. According to Republicans, this year the credit reverts to its pre-2021 structure, a non-refundable credit worth of $2,000 per child, ages 16 and under, that is. The Guardians received that when they file a tax return next year, but the expanded child tax credit payments have been paused, even though they help many families stay afloat as inflation skyrocketed. Reports have found that millions of children have fallen back into poverty. States have stepped in to make up some of the difference, and Vermont joins 9 other states in offering a state-level child tax credit, in addition to California, Colorado, Idaho, and New Mexico, and some other states. Additionally, North Carolina offers a child deduction rather than a credit, and Michigan's state legislature has passed a credit worth $500 for most children, though it is not law yet. Connecticut is offering a one-time tax rebate worth of $250 per child, capped at $750 for 3 children. Families need to apply to receive it, and the size of the credit and eligibility requirements vary greatly by state. Vermont's $1,000 payment, for example, is reserved for children 5 and under and families earning $125,000 or less. In Massachusetts, existing tax deductions for dependents were converted into two refundable credits. These state tax credits are worth between $180 to $240 per child under 12 for up to 2 children in all families. In some states, the credit is non-refundable, which means it can reduce someone's tax liability as low as $0. Taxpayers must file a tax return to receive it. Others, including Vermont, have made it fully refundable, meaning that it can reduce a filer's tax liability below $0. Despite the plans, the bill is yet to be formally proposed and is being negotiated on across both sides of Congress. Folks, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check and Social Security benefits. Stay tuned because you definitely don't want to miss out on this. Social Security, everybody, provides monthly benefits to millions of retired seniors. Some of those seniors depend on the program for the bulk of their income, and that's proven to be a problematic thing this year in particular. Although Social Security recipients get a generous 5.9% raise going into 2022, at this point the rate of inflation is far outpacing that boost. That means seniors who live mostly on Social Security are losing buying power even at a time when they're sitting on a higher raise. But that's not the only issue with depending heavily on Social Security. In future, Social Security may have to cut benefits to the tune of 20% due to revenue shortfall. That could leave many seniors in the lurch. In the coming years, Social Security expects to owe more in benefits than it collects in revenue, due largely to an anticipated mass exodus of baby boomers from the workforce. The good news is that Social Security has trust funds it can tap to keep up with scheduled benefits. But once those trust funds run out of money, benefits will be cut back on the table. Meanwhile, the Social Security trustees recently released a 2022 report, and it projects that the program's trust funds will run out of money in 2034. From there, Social Security may have to slash benefit income guidelines. But due to the cost of living adjustment, some Louisiana households may see a decrease in SNAP and other benefits, according to the Louisiana Department of Children and Services. This has so far affected millions of people under the Family Independence Temporary Assistance Program and SNAP program as well.